Have you been falling behind on the money side of running your business? Do you wish you were more consistent with how you keep track of your finances? If so, then it's time to seriously get into a weekly income and expense tracking routine. If you have no idea where to start with your income and expense tracking routine, then keep watching because today I'm walking you through everything I do for my bookkeeping in my business. After this video, you'll know exactly what you need to do every week and some cool ways that you can automate parts of your routine. And I gotta be honest, I'm a routine person. The more consistency I have in my life, the better I am at sticking to things. So I've been following the same income and expense tracking routine for years. And guess what? My finances are always up to date. And I love my routine because it's simple and it takes me less than 30 minutes a week. And now for my weekly income and expense tracking routine. Download my transactions. I'm a QuickBooks Online user, so the very first thing I do is go into my QuickBooks Online and click on this update button. When I click on this button, it tells QuickBooks to download all of my recent transactions from the bank. And I love this because I don't have to type anything in or log into a bunch of accounts and get my data. Now, if you're not using QuickBooks but still using a digital bookkeeping program like Wave or Xero, you probably have a similar button. If you're just using a spreadsheet, then this step will be you logging into your bank accounts and pulling up your recent transactions for each account. And by account, I mean any account associated with your business, like your checking accounts, savings accounts, and credit cards. The point of this step is to pull up your financial data, either through a software automation or through logging into your banks. Log and categorize my transactions. Step 2 is honestly the most important part of my entire routine, and that's logging and categorizing all of my transactions. So transactions are income, expenses, transfers, and owner draws. So basically anything that's happening inside of your bank account needs to be logged. Now in QuickBooks, this is pretty easy because QuickBooks has already downloaded my transactions and some key details. When I press the update button, QuickBooks downloads the date of the transaction, the amount, and the description that shows up in the bank. The description is usually what is going to show up on your statement. All I have to do is enter in the payee, and that's either who I paid or who paid me. And then I enter the category. Then I press add, and that adds the transaction into QuickBooks. It's pretty easy. Categorizing the transaction is the most important part because the category relates to your tax deductions. And when you file your taxes, you'll report how much money you spent in each tax deduction category. So it's not enough to just log that you spent money. You actually need to assign a category to every single transaction. And beyond taxes, having clear income and expense categories helps you understand your financial patterns and where you're making money and where you're spending money. If you're unclear about your tax deductions, check out my video, What is a Tax Write-Off?, which goes over how tax deductions work in your business. Then download my Biz Finance Survival Kit, which I've linked below, which has a tax deduction cheat sheet that you can use to figure out what your expense categories are. If you're using a spreadsheet, the process is the same, except you will also need to manually enter in your transactions and information like the date of the transaction, who you paid, the amount, and of course, the category. Apply payments to invoices. Logging and categorizing transactions is really the bulk of my income and expense tracking routine. But there are also a few other things I do every week, like applying payments to invoices. If you have an invoice-based business, applying your payments to your invoices and marking them as closed on a weekly basis is super important to ensuring that you are getting paid on time. You want to keep track of who is paying you and who has not. But if you're not in a routine of applying payments to invoices, then it's going to take you forever to figure out who's paid and who hasn't. Since I do all my invoicing through QuickBooks Online, marking an invoice as paid is pretty easy. I just go up here to the Receive Payment button, enter in the name of the person, who paid me, the payment date, and where I will deposit the payment, and then select the invoice that was paid. It takes like 10 seconds. And when I do this, this invoice shows up as closed and will not appear on my open invoice list. This process is pretty much the same for any digital invoicing program that you're using. Really, the point is to make sure that every week you are notating which invoices have been paid. Now, if you don't use a digital invoicing program, then I recommend you create an invoicing tracking sheet that allows you to keep track of what invoices are paid. You can just make a simple spreadsheet, and every time you send an invoice, you add it to the spreadsheet. Then, when it's paid, you update your spreadsheet with the payment date and method, and you're done. Send overdue invoice reminders. Every single week, I send out overdue invoice reminders. This is crucial to maintaining healthy cash flow in my business. If I don't send out regular reminders, then it could take weeks or even months to get paid. People get busy and things slip through the cracks, which is why every single week I look through my list of overdue invoices and send out reminders. Now, I say I send out overdue reminders, but I also like to send reminders to people who have invoices due in the next few days. I like to give them a nudge, one, to make sure that I get paid, but also because I do charge a late fee and most people appreciate me reminding them so they don't get charged the fee. Now, in QuickBooks Online, it's really easy to send invoice reminders. I just come here to Sales and Invoices and open up my list of invoices. Then I look for anything that's overdue, and I come here to this little drop-down arrow and click Send Reminder. Then there's this reminder template email that I've already set up, and I can edit or just press Send. And that's it. If you're using a spreadsheet to track your invoices, then you'll just look for anything that's overdue and send your customers an email. I highly recommend that you keep canned responses in your email program or in a doc that you can easily cut and paste. One of the biggest reasons we don't get paid on time is because we're not proactive about following up with customers. And one of the reasons we're not proactive is because we get too overwhelmed by all the things we need to do. So the easier you make it, the more likely you are to do this step. Review my financial reports. Most people like to review their numbers every month, but I actually really enjoy looking at my numbers every week. Now, if it's the beginning of the month, then I'll review my numbers for the previous month. But if it's mid-month, then I like to review my numbers for the month to date and see where I'm at. Sometimes I'll compare it to where I was at last month, around the same time, which helps me see if I'm on track this month to hit my financial goals. The way I review my numbers is by going to the report section of QuickBooks Online and choosing profit and loss. Then I can adjust the report period based on what I want to know. I do have a video that's an in-depth look at profit and loss reports called How to Read a Profit and Loss Statement for Small Businesses, which is linked below. I highly recommend you watch that video and a few others that I've linked to about profit and loss reports. And if you are not using a digital accounting program where you can easily run a report, then you can download my free profit and loss report template, which is a spreadsheet that makes it super easy to create your own monthly profit and loss report. And of course, I've linked to that below. Categorize my business mileage. The very last thing I do in my weekly bookkeeping routine is categorize my business mileage using my favorite mileage tracking app, MileIQ. Let me tell you a little story about the many years that I did not categorize my mileage every week and did it all the day before I filed my taxes. That sucked. So now I'm really conscious of categorizing my mileage weekly so I don't have to spend hours doing it all at once. MileIQ is really cool because it automatically tracks when you drive, and then you just swipe left or right to categorize drives as business or personal on your phone. The app is free for up to 40 drives a month, and I highly recommend you use it if you do take the standard mileage deduction. And if you go over 40 drives, then you can still manually enter in your mileage on your MileIQ dashboard and use the app for free. You're welcome for that. So some weeks, if I'm towards the end of the month and I have gone over my free drives, then instead of categorizing my mileage in my phone, I'll go to my dashboard and manually log my mileage. And that's it. That's my entire weekly income and expense tracking routine, which is pretty painless. And I've linked to a bunch of blog posts and resources below to help you level up your bookkeeping routine even more. Now, these are the things that I do weekly, but there are so many other tasks that you need to do for your business finances on an ongoing basis. My free Biz Finance Survival Kit has a complete list of small business bookkeeping tasks and a list of healthy financial habits for your business. You can download the free survival kit below. If you like this video, let me know in the comments, what was your biggest takeaway? And make sure you subscribe to my channel because every week I share a new video about how to organize, stay on top of your business finances, and how to feel like a total money badass. I'll see you in the next video.